Thank you. Like many games, Mass Effect has a shocking amount of interesting things within it, from holographic AI that can actually kill to rules within restaurants or some restaurants that prevents a given food with a chemical in it from being served at all because one species that might be deadly for them versus all the other ones it's okay for. They don't want to give that out just in case. And the biggest thing that caught my eye, believe it or not, is floating cameras. So what we're going to be doing today is asking about this, because like many, I've noticed with futuristic themes in movies, games, and TV and so on, that there's normally floating cameras somewhere within there. So the question is it possible? And straight from that, and you might be saying, yes, it is, because what we have today is drones like Parrot and a few others that has cameras on them. But here's the problem with that. You got saying that cost is not a problem. And this is even with the movie grade ones. You got problems with the audio, battery, and safety problems. And major tech review companies like The Verge and a few others, and part of it is within here, is finding problems within the average drone, and this being battery disconnect, the actual disconnect, radio disconnect, to there's this one thing where this kid, their eye got sliced in two. It's a toddler that got their eye sliced in two because a family member, they lost control of a drone and it slit the kid's eye. So obviously in the day-to-day news type of interview type of stuff, it isn't going to happen. And the question really is more of, can this be used more in the future, kind of like you see within the stuff and the Mass Effect and a few other things. One thing I want to mention before I dump a lot of information on you and things can be lost, because this is fairly deep, is there's a lot of sources down below. Feel free to pause and save it, because there's a lot of information into this one, but check out the sources and accreditation down below. So let's jump on in. Oh, and real quick before I forget, please feel free to go down to the Patreon and PayPal links down below to donate and help out this channel. And this video has probably been one of the hardest I've made so far, and it's took me a longest amount of time to do it. So based on the success on everything is based on if I continue this. But anyways, if I mess up on any facts or anything, let me know in the comment section, and that way I can fix it with annotations or something like that. And let me know the time period if you can timestamp that. Thanks. But anyways, let's continue. I'm sure many of you may bring up power issues, so let's start with a halfway explaining this one. And the reason why I'm really trying to focus on this one first is it's interesting, but the big problem with today's batteries, home batteries, is you get about 20 minutes to half an hour, give or take. Commercial grades, depending on how much money you want to throw into it, commercial grades can get up to an hour to 2 hours, give or take. Might be able to get 3 hours if you really customize your thing and really put it off, but you're looking more like an hour to an hour and a half realistically. And that's nothing. If you're going to do reporting, news reporting and stuff, you need to have your thing available for 16 hours at minimum. Otherwise, I personally consider it as a failure. And especially with something like that, that's floating and everything, it needs to be able to run without a charge for a very long time. So, and continuously run. So, as far as that goes, batteries will get better, so let's just throw that one aside because there's not much explaining there. It's kind of obvious. But why not wireless electricity? And that's a big one here, because wireless electricity, it would take care of a lot of situations, at least for the meantime. So back in 2009, there was some dude who stood up on a TED Talk show to show off a product, a wireless electricity product. And basically this works by using some type of thing that's called magnetic power transmission. And in a nutshell, it basically uses electromagnetic fields to power up something. The same way that your phone might wirelessly charge whenever, I don't have a wireless charger, but same way that your phone might wirelessly charge up whenever it's on a charger. Same way for that, it just uses electromagnetics. And a little bit more simplistic, or a little bit more terms into it. And the thing to keep in mind, that phone charge thing, it's just a much bigger scale, so you can be in the middle of a room. Is whenever you pass through a magnetic field through a unpowered coil of wire, it creates electricity in that coil of wire. This means that you can have pads in the floors or walls or ceilings or whatever, and all your devices can get powered off of that. In fact, I'm going to show you a little bit of that TED Talk right here.
Back of the television set. By the way, I do make it look a little bit easier than it is. There's lots of electronics and secret sauce and all kinds of intellectual property that go into it. But then what's going to happen is it'll create a field. It'll cause one to get created on the other side. And if the demo gods are willing, in about 10 seconds or so, we should see it. The 10 seconds actually are because I don't know if any of you have ever thought about plugging a TV in when you use just a cord. Generally, you have to go over and hit the button. So I thought we put a little computer in it that has to wake up to tell it to do that. So I'll plug that in. It creates a magnetic field here. It causes one to be created out here. And as I said, in sort of about 10 seconds, we should start to see. This is a commercially available color television set. Imagine you get one of these things, you want to hang them on the wall. How many people want to hang them on the wall? Think about it. You don't want those ugly cords coming down. Imagine if you can get rid of it. The other thing I wanted to talk about was safety. So there's nothing going on. I'm okay. And I'll do it again, just for safety's sake. Almost immediately, though, people ask, how small can you make this? Can you make this small enough? Because remember, Dr. Soljachic's original idea was his wife's cell phone beeping. So I wanted to show you something. We're an equal opportunity designer of this sort of thing. This is a Google G1. You know, it's the latest thing that's come out. It runs the Android operating system. I think I heard somebody talk about that before. It's on, it has a battery. It also has coil and electronics that electricity is put into the back of it. And if I can get sort of the camera, yeah, okay, great. You'll see as I get sort of close, you're looking at a cell phone powered completely wirelessly. And I know some of you are Apple aficionados, so they don't make it easy at Apple to get inside their phone, so we put a little sleeve on the back, but we should be able to get this guy to wake up too. And those of you that have an iPhone recognize the green center, and Nokia as well. You'll see that what we did there was put a little thing in the back to do that, and it probably beeps actually as it goes on as well. But the screen, typically you use it to light up the screen. So imagine these things could go. They could go in your ceiling, they could go in the floor, they could go actually underneath your desktop, so that when you walk in or you come in from home, if you carry a purse, it works in your purse. You never have to worry about plugging these things in again, and think of what that would do for you.
Like charging a phone, the more you're away from something, the more power you'll need, which is something that a lot of people don't know, is their pads that they put their phone on to wirelessly charge. While they're great, if you want it to, like if you want to hold your charger here and hold your phone up here, it takes a lot of power to do that, and it's something that's just not currently available to do at the time, at least how that's made. So that's a big thing to note in itself. Now, a real quick story. I was in Cocoa Beach, and next to Cocoa Beach, there's a Air Force base called Patrick, and they got radar systems because it's an Air Force base, obviously. And basically, one of their people was telling me back in the day, their radars they used to use them, the older ones, they used to use them. And when it's happening is people with fluorescent bulbs, their bulbs will start glowing. And we're talking about you'd be several miles away from the radar and the thing will start glowing. Well, when it's happening is I kept getting so many complaints from both on base and off base that even after explaining this stuff, they end up having to switch to a new technology to stop that. It's all entirely. And basically, if you go take your fluorescent bulb to most hardware stores, at least I worked in H Hardware when I was in high school. What we had is this little metal thing, and you turn it on, and the bulb could be literally 3 feet away from the thing or a little bit more, and the bulb will start lighting up. Closer it gets, the entire bulb will start lighting up. And the same thing happens there, so it's a little bit of a difference, but it's very similar as far as how that stuff works. Anyways, this was back in 2009 when the TED Talks were going on, and it's 2016 now, and I'm trying to figure out where the wireless electricity went. Like many people who grew up around Jetsons and stuff like that with the jetpacks and trying to figure out where that is. Well, a lot of people in my age group probably didn't grow up watching TED Talks and learning about how the difference between the different grades of uranium is and all the other stuff, but I did. So I want to know, where is my wireless electricity? And I figured that since there's so much time that went by, that maybe it was a major funding problem, or maybe the competition, like copper wire industry, bottom out to stop that, or maybe it was something that's called phantom electricity. In phantom electricity, it's also known as phantom load, standby power, vampire draw, or leaking electricity. And with something with so many names, you obviously can tell that this is a real problem. So much so that 10% of someone's electric bill can be caused by phantom electricity alone. And what is it? Phantom electricity is basically when a device, even when it's turned off, it takes power, even a small amount. This also goes along with outlets in the wall and the wires itself converting the electricity into heat, so you got heat loss, and a few other things. Now, graphene, it's actually probably going to fix a lot of stuff, graphene wires. And basically, graphene wires are easy to make, but it's still very, very, very new, and they're still trying to figure out some of this stuff, how to make it stronger and stuff. But to make it, it's just take a pencil and draw. Some of what you're drawing with is graphene, and there's an entire story behind how they figured out that one. Figured out how graphene conducts electricity and how they get to be like a millimeter thick or even less than that, and it's pretty neat all around. But I'm going to get into that in a later video, since graphene doesn't have nearly as much weight into it as normal wires do, copper wires. In many games, they use things like plasma grenades and stuff like that, and that can actually be used to explain why plasma grenades, how they would work in reality, how they can be very, very small to the point of like a dime, and it will have massive amount of problems for everybody near it and stuff of that nature. So I'm going to save that for that, and this one is a fairly long video as it is. But the reason why electricity isn't in every home, the wireless electricity isn't in every home, it's simply because of efficiency. So in 2014, D News, Discovery News, on YouTube, they put out a video talking about this. Basically, they said that the researchers, they were powering up a 60-watt light bulb 2 meters away, which is about 6.5 feet, and it only had 45% efficiency, which is not good. So to make it 100% power, they had to use 133 watts to power the 60 watt light bulb, and that's a bit much. That's well over double. So that's why it turned out. That's why it's not out yet. It's just not efficient enough. But there's an uptick in the some manufacturers that are going for a race for that. It has its own race, by the way. Some of them are getting a lot better, a lot quicker. So you might actually see where you can put in your walls these pads, and there you go. You powered up the entire room, or plug it into a whole house, plug it in, and you just powered up a bunch of devices if they have the proper stuff on them. And the thing is for those who think this will never come out, think of it like this. Cars, they can barely get you anywhere. They were almost worth nothing back in the day. Maybe to get you, a couple miles down the street and back, and that's it. And barely did that. It's like a horse was better, literally. And look at what they're doing now. So keep that in mind. And we're talking about early stages. This stuff, it's fairly new. It's fairly new, and there's not that many hands working on it. So hopefully we can get some more soon. So now, as far as power, now that we're pretty much saying that it's either future batteries, which we know it's going to be better, or wireless electricity, which we kind of got into pretty deep. What about keeping the thing upright, safety, stuff like that, and keeping it stable if someone screws with it? And the thing is, that will happen, especially with an interview thing. You see people where they punch the camera all the time. So the thing is sorry if I'm going to mispronounce it, but I'm going to put an annotation up. And let's talk about Fleye. I'm going to call it FI, just short. But basically, and I got videos and sources on this, but basically it is a rough design on a drone that was used within a kids movie, Flubber. And basically, if you haven't seen that, so I'll put some videos up on that. But in your own day-to-day life, I'm pretty sure you ran into some people, maybe balls and whatever, nothing too bad, but maybe brushed up against stuff. And with a drone that's moving around, I expect that it will actually do some very similar things. And the thing is it needs to stay in the same place. So how is that possible? And keep in mind, this particular one, it is you can push it around and whatever, but you have someone at control. So that's very important to note. It's not, as far as I know, it's self-correcting, but there is self-correcting ones out there. Now, it uses gyroscopes and basic math and a few other things. Basically, a gyroscope is used to see which way is up at any given time. Many of you use simple gyroscopes as a toy, or at least I hope that you had a chance to. If you can't, buy it. It was fun back in the day playing around with it. And then you got types of gyroscopes. Even if you take a coin and make it spin real fast, it'll try to stay up. That's an example. That's a crude example. But there's actual gyroscopes you can buy that's for toys, pretty cheap. And they've been made for quite some time now. Now, as far as that goes, basically the spinning wheel or disc has a angular momentum, and this is similar to a stone flying through the air. To change the direction requires force against the disc or spinning wheel, and the spinning wheel or disc prefers to stay in its orientation as is and will resist any attempts to change. In many drones, aircraft, and so on, the gyros Gyroscopes is in a special cage that's suspended, and since it wants to always stay upright, there's electronic sensors within the cage itself that whenever the thing tilts, the drone or whatever it is tilts, you can actually tell that the thing's tilting by instruments. So if you have to fly by instruments, then that's what helps you out majorly. So especially with drones and stuff of that nature. And especially when you get something a little bit more automated to this event, it says, okay, I'm being tilted, let's fix this. So the cool thing is you can actually scale gyroscopes as far as you want. You can apply it to any size as long as it's out of the quantum world. And this basically means that you can make gyroscopes as big as small as you like, and it'll work the same given that the size is realistic. Keep in mind, quantum world physics, as we know, breaks down into something else. You can have things being two separate things at the same place. You can have a lot of weird stuff going on, and that's entirely different physics than what we're talking about here. So there's obviously a few other things that need to go along with this, like a camera to map out the given area. A lot of people map out a room every second that they walk through. You don't basically, when you're walking through a room, you don't close your eyes and just walk. You map out as you walk. You map out even your stand still. And probably watching this video, you're still mapping out all the space around you. And that's normal. Well, a camera needs to be able to do that. But here's the thing is it needs to know if it's closer to the wall or not. And this goes into how a Connect or Windows Hello works. Not to be confused with Hello Gains, because basically they don't do what they say they're going to do, and whenever they say they're going to do something, they don't actually work on it. Now, No Man's Sky, Japs aside, basically it uses 2 or more cameras from a stable platform. So I got a Surface Book over here, and I'm pretty sure most people see a Connect, but basically it just needs to be on a stable platform. So something like this could be a stable platform. You know, you can't have like a camera here and a camera here connected by wires. It has to be in the same casing. That's what I mean by stable platform. And basically for that, how it works is one of the cameras is an IR, and this basically ignores color. And I'll have a video on the some channel, Curious Adventure, but it basically works like my LiveScribe pin. So let's see if I can take the bottom off. I don't know if you can see it, but basically there's a camera on the bottom. I don't have any paper with me. You won't be able to see with this camera because it's not good enough quality. By the way, Patreon and PayPal, that will go into the equipment. But on LiveScribe, it's a pin that interacts with certain paper. The paper has very, very, very small dots on it, and the dots are a little bit different from each other on a given piece of paper. And the position of where the dots are different from any other position. So you can say these few dots, they're different. You can say exactly where they are based on things. And basically what it looks at is dots to figure out where it is. So when you're writing, it can digitize that and go from there. Very neat, very useful when I took physical classes, especially for my first degree. But it's something that I actually would recommend with some people with learning disabilities like myself, and with people who has tough time with notes and stuff, and get permission and stuff. I got my Tech Reviews and Help channel. I get very deep in how to deal with that type of stuff. So check that out if you're really wondering, but ask me questions and I'll get into it real good in the comments. If not, the Tech Fuse channel. The main channel, sorry about that, changed the name. But anyways, as far as that goes, so the pen, it tells you where you are writing, and that way it says a digital copy of whatever you're writing. And this is a similar thing with the Connect or the Windows Hello on computers, the facial part. But the thing is those use depth, whereas my pen is not concerned about how far away it is. It's concerned about two axes, X and Y, if you will. It's not concerned about the Z, which is something to note. Whereas, obviously, my laptop, trying to figure out if I am who I am, or if I'm a picture, or whatever it may be, it's concerned with the depth and stuff. So how that works is fairly simple, but so the second camera comes into play. Each dot is somewhat different, and the groups of dots is somewhat different. Then the camera can make sure if say for example, if you took a this Android guy, you took a picture of him, and then you took a picture, blown it up, and still had it up here. With one camera, or even two, you're not really sure. Okay, the camera might focus on the antenna and say that's the place, but say the other second camera that sees the antenna, it thinks it's looking at the same thing, but it's really two different items. Well, the thing is that's not giving you a true depth. So that's where the IR mapping the dots, that's where they come in play, because the dots on this one wouldn't be the same as the dots on the other one. So so basically it doesn't matter the color, it doesn't matter anything besides the dots. That's what it's looking for. And the further away the dots are, the more it can tell, and so it goes down that path, and it just uses a triangulation from that. And it's pretty simple, but very, very complex at the same time. So so the more dots that you can have, the better, and the bit easier it is to figure out where things are. And this actually really comes into play when you're dealing with a flying camera, because it needs to know, okay, that plant, that's whatever, and not hit things. So now, as far as color, shape, whatever, you don't really have to worry about that. And this actually does work in theory with some camouflage systems. There's probably some that it wouldn't work with, and I don't really know off the top of my head why they wouldn't. But yeah, so let's say that you somehow made yourself invisible. Well, infrared light, if that still reflects off of you, then it can still find you. And it can find exactly where you are, the outline, everything. So that's a big thing to note. So as far as that goes, this does have military and police application because of that, but there's a downside. Multiple things showing these IR dots can cause problems in itself. It will confuse the system, and if it's in direct sunlight, it doesn't work. And that's why Windows Hello, that stuff on the computer to unlock your computer with facial, that's why it doesn't work. And when your face is in direct sunlight, is or maybe the camera's in direct sunlight, one or the other. That can cause problems. But the next solution to this is triangulation with static radio sources, or working with Internet of Things using some type of triangulation system. But a static radio system would be something like Wi-Fi or something like that, because you don't move Wi-Fi. It's set up at a given location, and it shouldn't be moving around. So obviously this isn't the best solution. So I think for the time being, flying cameras, we will have to use some type of machine vision, and this is basically a camera or sensor that looks for something. And an example of this is if you are looking for defects in the manufacturing line, then you can see the defects. So if you're making a part that needs 8 holes and you're getting parts with 6 holes, or maybe 8 holes and 1 slightly off, basically you can use a camera to kick that part off. And the important thing to note is if you've ever seen the show How It's Made, or if you've ever been in a real world automated manufacturing line, you will know easily how fast this happens, and you would never be able to keep up ever, because it happens in milliseconds times, and that's an important thing to note. But maybe you're asking, what happens if the thing loses power out of nowhere and hits someone on the head? And this gets into another company, and if I mispronounce it, I'll put the name of it up, but Festo. And basically it's a drone that they made, and I'll video up. And it doesn't save the day because the blades are still on the outside, so you got problems with the kid and whatever. But as far as that goes, the entire unit itself is a gas-filled ball, or at least the majority of it, and or ball-like body. Basically, if you were able to get the weight down, as far as have a camera flying robot, if the weight is down, then if something like this was to hit someone's head or some part of their body, it'd be pretty much like getting hit with a beach ball, one of those light ones, not a volleyball. So it will hurt a little, but it's one of those pains that you can walk away. It's not a pain that you go to the hospital or go 6 feet under. Whereas the ones in Mass Effect, they don't look like something that if it hits you in the head, or they just like hit you like that or something like that, it looks like you'd probably be killed by it pretty easily. So that's one thing to keep in mind, and that's something that everybody has to keep in mind when they're doing these type of things, is what happens if the drone hits someone going as fast as it can, or just falls out of the sky. So what about the baby that got their eye cut, sliced in two? Well, this kind of goes with the other one, the FI, and it's a mix between this ball, gas-like ball body, and if you actually, any hard area, if you fill it up with pockets of air or something, preferably air, and basically what would end up happening is that will cushion the stuff. If they did it smart, basically what can happen is you can actually have a pump that intakes air. If it detects something's touching it, or it's coming in collision with something, it will release the air through a pocket or something. So it's all about transferring energy to the right place. Okay, the thing hits someone in the head, right? Do you want to transfer the energy into the person? Some of the energy is going to be transferred on the person. There's no way around that. But when a mosquito whacks you in the head, do you feel it? No, because it doesn't have enough energy there, or at least hopefully you don't. But it doesn't have enough energy there for you to really feel it. Well, the same thing here is some of the energy is going to transfer, but is it going to be so little that a person doesn't even know? Or is it going to be where the person just gets knocked out cold and dead? So the trick is transfer as little energy as possible to the person. And I think that's going to be transferred into the air going out, which is probably going to be used as a cushion. That's the best way I can describe it. There's mechanically you can do it. It's just going to be very, very difficult to get it absolutely right. So that's a big thing to note in itself, and it would take some testing and stuff like that. But as I said, basically you'll have pockets of air around the hard bits, and the pockets are there to absorb and cause this little energy transfer and whatever. The fans could be placed inside of the actual thing, like a Dyson fan. So if you actually look at the video, basically the parts that moves air will be in a cavity. The fan itself will be in a cavity. If the thing is filtered too, this will also keep any bad stuff away from the fan motors and also clean the air at the same time. So it has a dual function right there. But it will keep all the bad stuff, which is something that you really want away from your stuff, especially being in a complex system like that. So with that, personally, I would try to use the pockets around the camera to have some lighter than air gas within some of the pockets. In fact, a lot of pockets. And that way, if the thing cuts off power altogether, then it will slowly fall down to the ground, and it won't just whack someone. Because if it loses power, then how are you going to do that cushion? That's a big thing to keep in mind. Okay, so we got power and safety out of the way. What about the sound?
And from here, how long away are we from this being a fully marketable product that we can roll out across a lot of the restaurants? Okay. Because, I mean, some people might be a little bit put off and scared by the sound.
It is quite noisy.
It is a little bit noisy, and, of course, the wind that it generates as well.
Yeah. Well,
as you know, many drones sound like a lawnmower or a fan that's messed up or something like that. Even the Dyson sounds like a small vacuum cleaner, which is basically, it is what it is. Because if you actually look at the schematics, that's what it is. The problem is a reporter cannot be asking questions when it sounds like a lawnmower next to their head. This kind of gets into something very real but very experimental, and it is called sonic black holes, or known as dump holes, or a black hole for a sound. It's more for first two. So this is another thing that came out of 2009, and but hasn't really seen much success in the average person pushing for it, mostly because the average person probably doesn't know about it, just like the wireless electricity. So hopefully this video changes that. But unlike wireless electricity, this does release some Hawking radiation. But keep in mind, most fluids that do this, it won't release any Hawking radiation. But the labs actually do want the Hawking radiation so they can study it, because that's the biggest thing is they're running into a problem is they're having a hard time finding fluids that will release Hawking radiation when this phenomenon happens, so they can study it. That's a big thing to note there. But basically this works by sound going through a fluid that's going much faster than the speed of sound. Keep in mind, fluids can be gas. It's not exclusive to liquids. So fluid dynamics, study that, and you'll find out very quickly that fluid, a lot of people think liquid. No, it's liquid's just one part of it. You got gas and a few other things. You obviously cannot mess with the air itself going around a fan, but you can mess with the air pretty much everywhere else. And as long as it doesn't touch a person outside and whatever, it's fine. By the way, I want to mention I'm sorry that I don't have any videos or pictures on this. It's just this stuff is so new that there is no real pictures on this type of stuff. It's still lab whatever, and that's a big thing to note. Sorry about that. But how would you create that speed? Basically, it would need a system like a jet engine. You can compress the air down and increase the speed at which it comes out. So the more you compress it, the more speed you gain out of it. It's kind of like putting your thumb over a water hose, and at the end of the hose, it just sprays out faster and faster and faster. And the more you press down, the more it'll compress, which means the more water will come out, the higher pressure water will come out. Keep in mind, for this black hole thing to work, the thickness is not the key. So, but doing this will require a lot of energy. But what I mean by the thickness is not the key. Basically, as far as I can tell, because again, a lot of it's lab stuff, a lot of it's experimental. Even though it's back in 2009 when this stuff was found, it's barely been touched on. Like literally, I got into sources, the wiki link, and that's about it as far as the information I could find on it. I remember seeing a documentary where they said like 3 words on it whenever they figured it out a while back, but that was it. I can't even find that because there's so little information on it. There's more information about the Hawking radiation on how they can make Hawking radiation through it than the actual thing, and more information about the event horizon whenever the sound, you can deal with sound, and how they're comparing that with a real black hole versus a sound black hole, because the same properties happen with the sound and light. It's just different. But it's very interesting, but there's very little information that goes on with that. But as far as I can tell, if you had like a millimeter cavity all the way around, and you can do that, then basically what would end up happening is there's your soundproofing. Obviously, sound will get out some areas, so you can't stop that. Now, note the other thing is bigger blades will make less sound. The reason for this is smaller blades actually do have to work harder to keep up with a proper sized blade, and how much area of air they can push out. Lastly, there is ways to direct sound, but even with this, I don't think you can completely eliminate sound. Remember echoes and stuff like that. Maybe you can eliminate enough where you and I as people can't hear it, but we're also dealing with a camera, the visual, but we're dealing with a microphone on the camera or a microphone in the person's hand, and we need to make sure that microphone cannot pick it up. So that's where you get into directional microphones like this right here. I think you can see this one right here, and basically if it's the person, the reporter, is trained, it shouldn't pick it up unless something odd is going on. It shouldn't pick up the sound from that or something else. So keep that one in mind, and that's something worth to note. So the question is can it be done? And the answer is yes, but only if we have a way to figure out how to make the drone fly safely, how to make virtually no sound coming out of it, The battery needs to last a very long time, and the thing can be messed by idiots. Because, I mean, you get into these riots and stupid things, or just people who act stupid, they're going to touch the camera, or even if it's a drone. And one, you don't want to be sued because they stuck their finger into the fan, or two, you don't want the thing just to weird out because they touched it. So that's a big thing, is it needs to be all of those things. Or we find another safe and soundless way to make things float without a fan. And we can't use fire. That's a given. Those Mr. Handies, no, you can't do that. That's just going to burn up carpet and plants and stuff. No. Personally, what I think is going to end up happening is the first real floating cameras is going to look like more of a balloon with a camera on it. And basically what's going to end up happening is it'll be floating balls, and you'll have fans on it. So on the outside or inside doesn't really matter at this point. It's just starting. But basically what would happen is the ball will be filled with helium or something, and the fans will only be on positioning and making sure the thing's stable. Outside that, the fans that push it, pull it, whatever, they can be turned off all the time because it'll be floating. The trick is to get it to stay there, and that's a big trick, because otherwise you got the noise of the fan, which is the biggest problem. Again, you don't want a lawnmower in an interview. So as far as that goes, hopefully you liked this video. If you like it, then great. Didn't like it, then let me know, and let me know why. But if you did, leave a like, subscribe, share, and whatnot. So check out my main channel if you're not there. If you're on my main channel, check out my secondary channel that I started up. But let me know what you want the next topic to be on, and I'll take a look at it. And see you then.